Get to know the members, holiday members spotlight. Who are you and what is the most important thing to you is what we're going to break down here for our MK Ultras. They replied, and we got lots of participation from our channel members. And we basically just wanted to put you guys in the spotlight. You've supported us here. We're over a year as a channel and pushing on strong. Wanted to shine a light on you as a little bit of a Christmas Eve present. And the first to break the ice, to introduce themselves and share what was most important to them was Zach.
Yeah, let's bring these up. So we've got the bios that we got from people in the Discord, Rob, which again is an incredible little community. And what I thought was what I thought was good to do here is to not only ask people who they are, where they're from, which we got the map. It's dotted with our ultras for the most part. Maybe to an ultra, if you're missing, let me know. But also like to find out what people care about, right? This is like if we were pollsters politically, we would ask you, what's the issue you care about most when you go to the ballot box, right? Is it your how much you spend on your groceries? Is it whether or not we engage in international conflict, whatever it is, right? Whatever your pet issue is. And so I did that with our ultras. I asked them. Now this is Zach. Zach is our guy who is out of North Carolina, founder of Mountains to Sea FC. Said he's been a magnet non-league soccer in North Carolina since 2019. He started a statewide league that had 12 clubs that went defunct. So he's engaged directly, not just in Mountain to Sea, but has history further deeper in North Carolina soccer. The most important issue to me is in the U.S. soccer landscape is the Wild West of the non-league amateur scene. With so many leagues competing for money, attention, clubs, and all that, it just becomes a nightmare to talk about and navigate since it's all so disorganized. And look, I will admit that was never really my focus as a professional broadcaster, as a writer. I was focused on MLS and the U.S. men's national team almost to a fault for about a decade and a half. But as we've done this show, and as I've kind of branched out in terms of what I do professionally, like I've worked with the UPSL on making videos about their seasons and their playoff tournaments and the people involved in owning clubs like Alessandro Del Piero. I've had a chance to interview Alessandro Del Piero twice because of the UPSL, because he owns a club in that league. But then you're like, okay, well, UPSL, how does that, what's the difference between that and NPSL? What's the difference between that and USL 2? Like these things, to Zach's point, they get real complicated, Rob.
Yeah, and I love it too. And in the same, right, there's an endless amount of possibilities when you're talking about this, because there's so many different clubs from very different levels and histories. We have the summer league seasons. You have historic ethnic teams that have been around for 50, 80 plus years, battling against teams that started earlier in that summer. And that juxtaposition can be fascinating. And shout out as we get going, we got a brand new member, CD Gobjects, in the mix. Welcome aboard.
CD Gobjects. Oh my God. All right, let's move on. Maybe we'll get a bio from CD Gobjects at some point in the near future. Number 2 is our man, Jason Hoover, out of, a fan of the Columbus Crew. He's from Dayton, Ohio. He's a Tottenham Hotspur fan. We won't hold that against him. Social media for Gem City Massive, a Dayton area supporters group for the Crew. Soccer fan since 94. Still remember watching USA Brazil, 4th of July, round of 16. We could have won that game. That's the game where Leonardo cracked open Tab Ramos's skull. That's the only thing that's always where my brain goes, because Tab would have been, never mind. Tab was great. Most important issue in American soccer to me is increasing cost of being a fan. Both MLS and U.S. soccer continue to price out common fans in favor of corporate ones, and I think that's to the detriment of American soccer. Yeah, I don't know what to say to that other than I understand you, Jason, right? We spend a lot of time talking about World Cup tickets, and it's obviously not just World Cup tickets, but this is another thing. And I'm not going to tell Jason to stop being a Columbus Crew fan or stop making trips to Columbus for games or whatever. But this is why people are migrating and are moving away maybe from professional big-time soccer in America to some lower league options, Rob, whether that's professional or amateur.
I know I'm in my own kind of summer league bubble, but I really do hope that the teams and the leagues that are playing through the summer really lean into being the affordable option as Major League Soccer gets more expensive, and obviously the World Cup is becoming a a financial behemoth as far as anyone trying to access the tournament.
Sorry, you stopped me so many times, and I don't want to make it a thing every single time, but I appreciate you, Rob. Let's move on. This is Tom. He is Soccer Zombie. He's got a YouTube channel. Go support him. Also, one of the hosts of the new Red Smoke Rising podcast. Director of Communications for Gateway Football Group in St. Louis. Have a team name, but we're waiting to reveal it on that is March 14th. Longtime Liverpool supporter, St. Louis City supporter. Married to a soccer crazy family, and like Jason got hooked in 94. For me, the most important issue is accessibility. So this comes back to what Jason was talking about, I think. The World Cup and MLS are pricing families out of the game and ruining the chance for that generational support of the sport through monopolization and greed. It's important clubs start in cities around this spread out country of ours. It still needs to be accessible for families and fans alike. Yeah, this is that issue of, do we need alternatives? Is there a chance that MLS pulls back, that we don't see the prices go higher and higher and higher and price out everybody? I don't know. Quick interruption here.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Big T.
Can you say Merry Christmas to everybody real quick?
Merry Christmas.
Okay, you enjoying Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna keep doing the show. I'll see you later. Okay. ¿Qué pasó? Oh, wow. A sticker. That's great.
No, not a sticker, a pin.
Oh, he's got a pin. I'm sorry. He wanted to show me his pin. So thank you. That's Tiago. He's my 4-year-old, about to be 5. He's getting into soccer. We'll see. All right. Thank you to Soccer Zombie Tom Franklin for being an ultra. I'm trying to pull this back, Rob. You want to get us back on track?
Yeah, sure. Let's move on to Mr. Todd Brooks. He lives in Council Bluffs, Iowa, right next to Omaha, Nebraska. 55-year-old and proud Navy veteran. Fell in love with soccer when the United States hosted World Cup 94, was watching games on the Staticky Hotel TV while in Des Moines for a Metallica concert. We got MLS, and I was watching those. Then cable TV started showing Euro games, and I was hooked. Then internet happened, and now I'm streaming, watching lots of soccer. Favorite team is Liverpool. Got a lot of good taste in the group, and no other reason. It's such a blue-collar shipbuilding town, and I pretty much watch any game with American players involved. Biggest issue with U.S. soccer is the American public knows our top flight isn't top flight at all. If you want to watch the best, MLS is not it. How do they compete with that? Baseball, football, hockey, and the others.
Yeah. I that's an interesting issue to kind of make your number one issue. I definitely think in terms of how we expand our American soccer culture, it can be an issue. Now, I've also come to sort of a universal theory of soccer after years of being an American soccer guy, Rob, and I still am. I'm still at heart, first and foremost, a guy who cares about the American game. But you kind of have to think about this as a rising tide lifts all boats. We're all kind of in this together. And even if you are different, if you care about MLS, or let's say you care about lower leagues in America, or you are an Oakland County SC kind of guy, like if you're into amateurs, and you first of all, Rob is a Liverpool fan also, right? So you can be all those things at one time. You can, of course.
That's one of the beautiful things about this game. Like, there's layers. There's the international layer, the international club layer, the domestic layer, and your local layer. I mean, you can be fans of all those different things.
Yeah, absolutely. And nobody's going to say that you're wrong for doing that. I mean, I wouldn't. Maybe some people would say that you're wrong. And I think this is kind of what Todd's saying. Is that people go, "Oh, you're an MLS fan? Ew. Oh, you don't watch the Premier. You don't get the Premier League so much better." And that snobbish thing, which I don't use the word Euro snob as much as I used to, but that snobbish thing is a bit of an issue in American soccer. I just think we kind of have to find ways to bridge gaps between people who care more about European football, people who care about American soccer, people who care about, say, Liga MX, which we know is the most watched league in America. The communities, like we are all sort of orbiting in various ways around the game, and maybe not coinciding, maybe not connecting. So you've got the people who go out to the pub on Saturday morning or watch the Premier League Saturday morning. There are, people probably very close to where you live in a metropolitan area. Now, Rob was hanging out with Russians, but there are like multiple soccer communities that play on the middle school fields behind my house. There is a Latino community that I think is mostly Bolivian and South American, and then there's an East African community that has their own games. And those, not only do I have struggled to connect with either or both, they don't connect with each other. They're playing the same game, right? Now they're immigrants, and that obviously makes it so that you collect with people who come from your same community. But that's a thing in American soccer, right? I'm not saying it's a bad thing on anybody's part, but it is an issue that we're all kind of moving in the same direction, but we're in very different lanes most of the time.
Yeah, MLS is in a bit of an impossible position in that way, coming into the game 150 years or 130 years later than everyone else, trying to be the top dog. They're the top flight in the United States, but attaining that top level in the world is hard, and that's hard for the American public because for the other sports, they are seeing the top competition in the world. So it takes a little bit of a eye lens adjustment. Major League Soccer is kind of stuck in the middle because I think that you can adjust your eye. If you're supporting a team at the local level, you can have that connection to the team because that is my town represented. And so maybe it's not perfect top of the world soccer, but you can root for it because your connection to it personally. And then you can watch overseas because those are the globe's best. So Major League Soccer is kind of stuck in a tough place. If you don't have a team in your town, it's hard to root for a Major League Soccer team because it's not necessarily the global best, but it's also not like your hometown team if you're not one of the 30 teams that has a team.
And that thing about the psychology of fandom and how it works and why you connect with what you connect with, that's obviously a mystery in a lot of cases. But sometimes it's about passing this down, right? I'm a Denver Broncos fan. Have I ever lived in Denver? No. I visited as a kid, but I'm a Broncos fan because my grandfather was a Broncos fan and taught me to be a Broncos fan. And then, I couldn't get away from it. And so I fell in love with that team, and I'm never going to let them go, even if I never live in Denver, right? And those things are only just sort of forming around American soccer and specifically around MLS, which goes back to 96. Right? Some of these teams do have history deeper than that. And you can say, well, the Sounders have been around since the 70s and things like that. But generally speaking, we're talking about teams that are 30 years old or much, much less in a lot of cases. And so we're not in a generational mode yet, which is going to carry this game forward in a lot of ways that we take for granted when it comes to Europe. And even if you are only a Arsenal fan or a Liverpool fan because you chose them, not because they were passed down to you, you are jumping on the shoulders of that history that was passed down, that is multi-generational, right? That can go back and you can, I'm an Arsenal fan. I love Fever Pitch, right? Well, Fever Pitch comes out of a love for Arsenal that goes way, way deeper, right? So anyway, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we referenced my Liverpool fandom. I'm a third generation Liverpool fandom, and my grandfather broke away from an Everton family, and so that was passed down to me. I think I was shown Liverpool highlights when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and that was it for me. But as soon as I had a local team in my neighborhood, like that adopted a whole new region of my fandom in my heart. There's a whole different place for the local team there. Thank you, Todd. Good topic there. Moving on, Edward Lewis lives in Kansas City. Season ticket holder for SKC. Love going to the games, but parking is a nightmare downtown. I got into MLS while living in Columbus back in 2010, and the Crew will always be his number one. And Edward's biggest issue with MLS having too many teams in the one league. I'm not saying Pro Rel is the solution, but I do say that. I just think having unbalanced number of games against teams or not even playing some of the teams is not the way.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Major League Soccer's size fits the country we live in. If you think of it as, as a soccer version of the NFL, and I'm not talking about approach corporate. I'm just saying in terms of what it's supposed to be in a country that doesn't go deep and historical with its club organization. And I always say that one of my main themes about American soccer is that we're a league first country and not a club first country, because in order to get clubs off the ground, you have to have an organizing body and gather a bunch of people with money to put that into the game. And then you say, well, you put a team there and you put a team there. And, oh, Lamar Hunt, you're connected to Kansas City. You get a team over there. And that has created a situation where there is just this idea that we can keep growing, and we can be NFL-like with the size of our league. But that does not connect with the history of the sport in a lot of other places where 20 teams is the max, because you want to play everybody home and away, and the balanced schedule is the manner in which you determine your champion. That's probably not going to happen in this country. It's just not.
All right, we're going to move to our next member. Thank you so much, Edward, for participating here. We got Tulsa Mario, who I'll say, I'm not sure if I messaged him, but when we featured Tulsa Mario following that USL Championship Western Conference success that they had, we had commenters saying that Tulsa Mario's interview was their favorite segment of the show so far.
Nice.
So shout out Mario that people appreciated your appearance on the program. So to read his bio here, my name is Mariano Soler, the 9th. Wow. But everyone calls me Mario. I was born in Puerto Rico. My family and I moved to East Boston, Massachusetts when I was a year and a half, learned to love soccer and sports in Boston, started being a fan of Chelsea in 95, then started following New England Revs in 96. About 17 years ago, I moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma. After meeting a few fellow Chelsea fans, I created and led the Tulsa Blues, official supporters group for Chelsea FC. 2 years later, Tulsa Roughnecks was announced, and I helped create and start the first supporters group for the club. Mario's biggest issue with American soccer is the disconnect in this so-called pyramid system. I would love it if the USSF would manage this federation like it's supposed to handle everywhere else in the world. Thank you, Mario.
Yeah. First of all, shout out to Mario for being a Puerto Rican soccer fan. It's still fairly, I don't think it's rare. And as I travel the island during the holiday season, I do see a not insignificant number of soccer jerseys. Lots of Inter Miami stuff, as you can imagine, Rob. Lionel Messi's got power, and pink is the color people like to show out with. I did see an LAFC jersey in the mountains in Hajuya. I think I mentioned Hajuya on the show. Saw an LAFC shirt there. Interesting stuff. So Puerto Rico's growing as a soccer place, just like America is, I think. Still got other sports ahead of soccer here. But yeah, that issue with the disconnect in the pyramid. I mean, I think that's going to be an eternal frustration for us. And without getting too deep into it, you have to remember that the issue is, in order for that to happen, U.S. soccer would have to really be powerful in a way that a lot of soccer fans really don't want them to be. So you would have to have U.S. soccer saying, okay, look, we're the organizers of this game in this country, and we're saying there's a pyramid and there's pro-rel, and this is the way it's going to be. And the problem with that is that the power that U.S. soccer has over the game is tenuous. It's based on the Ted Stevens Act. It's based on this idea that Olympic sports should be organized by accredited bodies, right? So U.S. soccer is the accredited body to run soccer, which, again, falls under this act, even though really in terms of Olympic sports, is it quite the same as, say, gymnastics or figure skating or anything like that? Probably not. Again, the issue is that the history of the game here doesn't allow for U.S. soccer to be that powerful. And even if U.S. soccer did put their foot down, and in some cases they have stepped in it by trying or doing things that people see as anti-competitive, and the laws work against them because they can be taken to court and challenged over anything they do that anybody else, and again, independent leagues, league first country, not club first country, anybody can say, you are restricting my business, my league, from being competitive in this marketplace. It's exactly what Rocco Camiso did when the NASL was jumping into lawsuits with U.S. soccer. It's all about that. So I just think that this is unfortunate. There can be other ways to do it, but American soccer is going to have to find a way to connect its pyramid in ways that are not the same as everybody else, because it just can't happen.
We have a few more to go, so more MK Ultras to spotlight. I'm going to move on to Matthew. He's 48 from Southampton, and he's from Exmouth, UK, and Southampton is his English team.
Exmouth? That doesn't say Exmouth, Rob. That says Exmouth. Oh man, pronunciation in England, such a thing. Just kidding. Go ahead.
That aside, Southampton is Matthew's English team. He went there for university just as he was getting into soccer. Being that Devon is not exactly a hotbed of the game, it is funny that England is such an intense soccer place, but there are non-soccer regions in the country.
Yeah, isn't one of there's a team that is fairly consistently in the Premier League, a yo-yo club, and everybody's like, oh, that's a rugby town. Like, that's not even really a soccer town. That's a rugby town. I can't remember which one it is. Somebody's going to tell me which club that is. Go ahead.
Come up, Bristol.
I think it might be Hull. Isn't Hull more of a rugby town than a soccer town?
Yeah, and back when Hull was in the Premier League, you could see all the rugby lines on it, which
That's
I
right.
thought was
Yeah.
a funny parallel with American soccer lines, American football lines being on soccer fields, and Luke putting out leads, and then just generally the south coast of England. Recently there is more prominence with the Brightons and the Bournemouths, but the south, and especially the southeast and west corners. Not hotbeds for soccer. But moving on, Matthew moved to the U.S. to Iowa in 2004 for grad school, back when not much soccer was around or on TV. Followed the team back home until I moved close enough to have a team, and here I am now, Chattanooga Red Wolves, because I want to be the bad guy, and they are close to my house. And the most important thing to Matthew is that the stands get enough people in them to financially sustain the teams and produce a great atmosphere to be a part of it. But without that turn, when it gets popular, where the original supporters who carried it get shafted by the money men cashing in, only to watch it atrophy and have to try all over again.
Wow, have a bigger issue, Matthew. Like, have a bigger thing to try to figure out how to avoid that natural sort of. I mean, I say natural. I just mean it's historically it's a thing that happens, right? Something gets popular and the original adopters kind of get pushed out. I mean, this is a major issue. We're not going to dive into the accounting again here, Rob. Neither one of us are accountants, as far as I'm aware.
For sure.
But that thing about finding a price point that allows people to have access to your game, because it's not a charity, right? Professional clubs, they're not being run as charities. They're being run as businesses. Now, that doesn't mean they have to rake in profit, right? If you're a soccer club owner in America and you're doing it for the right reasons, you should want to have your number be zero at the end of every year, right? We are exactly zero. We didn't make any money, but we didn't lose any money. That's not the way of it now. Clubs lose money, particularly when they start up, for a long time. Right? We've talked about this with several people, including Sam Morton recently, which is you basically know you're going to be hemorrhaging money and spending millions for the first couple of years as a club. So then how do you get that back and make sure you can make it long lasting? Because nobody wants to lose millions of dollars for a long time. MLS owners maybe have eaten that a little bit, which is, again, why it's hard to kind of get a sense of how much credit you give to the original MLS owners when some people would say they've restricted the game's growth with some of the ways they've gone about it. But at the lower league level, especially, we want to charge this amount of money to get this number of people in the building so that we can have enough money to continue. If you raise the prices because you need more money, but fewer people come, and now the atmosphere suffers, are you actually doing your business any good? But you have to think beyond the next quarter, the next year, the next bottom line number.
There's another point that Matthew brings up here, being a Chattanooga Red Wolf fan because he wants to be the bad guy. We don't have a lot of that in American soccer. How many teams and people are rooting for the bad guy on this side?
We need more people to want to be the bad guy, a little, in a fun way, right? Inter Miami's taking on that villain role in Major League Soccer, and I think there are some fans of Inter Miami who are just saying, whatever, you don't like us, screw you, and that's part of soccer culture, right? Nobody likes us and we don't care, like that kind of thing. There's a lot of that in English football.
We need a Millwall. Who's the Millwall of American soccer?
Do we need a Millwall? I don't think we need a Millwall. We need somebody that's not quite Millwall exactly, but somewhere in that range, I guess.
Rough around the edges at the very least, right?
There you go. We do need that. That's character, right? And that's something that I think up till the last maybe decade has been tough to see whether MLS teams can sort of take on the character of the communities that they inhabit. And, obviously America has changed. Like if there was, you've got teams in the Rust Belt, you've got teams in certain parts of the South, you got teams in California, teams, again, in places with a lot of Latin influence. Those clubs should reflect the culture of the place that they inhabit.
Moving on to Ken. Ken is a semi-retired journalist and educator from Navarre, Florida, about halfway between Pensacola and Destin in the Panhandle. Raised in Mississippi, Oklahoma, Missouri, served proudly but briefly in the Air Force. There's a connection to you there, Jason. An earned degree in history from Pittsburgh State University in Kansas. I became interested in soccer in the 70s with the original NASL, tried to tune into local telecasts of the Tulsa Roughnecks without much success, so I settled for the few lines I could find in the newspapers. Like most of the ultra who have posted, I really got into soccer with World Cup 94. Also a Liverpool supporter. I like Dortmund and Barcelona. I'm a minority owner of 3 lower league clubs and a freelance writer for a couple of soccer fan sites. Pensacola FC is my closest local club, fielding men's and women's in the League for Clubs and WPSL, respectively. And Ken's biggest issue facing soccer right now is the lack of clear direction. He'd like the federation to be more assertive and coordinate all areas of soccer development, or somebody to make it all make sense.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Ken, for being an ultra. Let's say that first to everybody who is part of this and has responded. My dad's down in Pensacola or near Pensacola. I don't think he's a Pensacola FC guy. Maybe you can get him. Maybe you recruit him. I'll hire you to recruit him to be a soccer guy, Ken. No, just kidding. That lack of clear direction, development. I mean, again, you're talking about people are extremely protective of their little corner of American soccer in a lot of places. And again, I don't want to cast aspersions on anybody, but you got state associations that have been run by the same people for decades, right? This is just kind of what happens at the organizational level for things like soccer in America, which doesn't have a lot of people clamoring to be involved. So people can kind of carve out their little kingdom. And then once they're in place and once they've curried enough support from within their federation, with their state association, then it's really hard to knock them off. And they do not want to do what the federation says all the time. They do not want to change the way they have done things for a long time. So again, I'm not in that political world deep enough to really have a comment on it. I just know that that's part of the issue.
Thank you, Ken. Moving on, John Hunt, middle school social studies teacher and boys soccer coach in South Central Kentucky, president of the Railbirds SG for Lexington, massive fan of soccer all over the world at all the different levels, mainly fan culture. Most important issue to John in American soccer is getting casual fans of the sport to go out and support their local team over supporting a team overseas. Too often I run into people that are fans and want to support the sport to grow, but they don't go out and support their local team.
What's the right approach, John? Should we shame them? Should we show up at their houses and knock on their doors and say, why aren't you going out and supporting the local club? Or what is the deal? Like,
give them a firm jostling.
I think some of this is awareness. Let me shout out a guy that I haven't talked to in a while, Dan Wiersma, who was, I think, based in San Antonio back in the day. I might have to check on where Dan was. Maybe Austin. Can't remember. Dan was this guy. He was a teacher. He was just a presence in American soccer social media. And his thing was free beer, right? I'll buy you come out to a game with me and I'll buy you a beer. Or let's go watch a game and I'll buy you a beer. And it was the free beer movement. He got scarves made and he had a website, and the whole thing was come with me or watch a game. You think you won't like it. And obviously I think he was trying to get non-soccer fans into the game. John's talking about a little bit of a different lift, which is casual fans, soccer fans who maybe already like the game, but don't think that their local team is worth the effort. And man, look, I think we just have to build and build and build. Like, we just have to tell people this is awesome. You think that you like, maybe you don't see 60,000 people in the stadium, so you don't think it's worth it. But let me tell you, it's actually a much more rewarding experience in some ways. Not that going out and seeing a game with 60,000 people isn't fun, but going out and seeing a game with 3,000 people can be a different kind of rewarding experience.
Next up, it looks like you skipped over him, but before we go by, Luke Z was another.
Where did I skip him? No, I don't. I saw Luke say, "Do my bio for me, Rob." Did you?
Yeah, because I wanted to bounce off of that because the buy a beer movement from the last one segues into this. Luke Z, one, I'll put his tag here. He very big supporter of the show. And he asked to do the bio for him. So he is a great ambassador for sports in general, but for the game, he is almost to a fault, always trying to bring folks out to games at the local games and even bring people from Michigan. He drags them down to go to Columbus Crew games as well. So an ambassador for the sport and great supporter of this show. And he mentions his biggest issue in the United States is youth soccer. It's culture. He wants it. He'd rather see the culture, the game in U.S. youth soccer. He'd rather it be culture and talent over profit and politics. So appreciate the contribution there, and that is a big issue in American soccer no doubt. Who we got next?
Well, first of all, let me tell people, if you're watching this and you're not already an ultra, click that button that looks like a dollar and become an ultra. Support the show. I mean, that's what we need to do, and that's why we're highlighting all the people who have already jumped on to become ultras, because that support is going to keep us going into 2026. And while we have some things kind of cooking, nothing is ready to come out of the oven, and we got to keep going with your support. So let's do that. Shout out to Luke. All right, let's go to Dave Cotton. American Groundhopper is his sobriquet. Season ticket member, Sacramento Republic. Shout out to my hometown. Born and raised a whole 2 months. He's also a West Ham supporter. Bucket list goals to visit all the U.S. and Canadian professional grounds. 14 in MLS, 14 in the USL Championship, 6 Canadian Premier League grounds. Pretty good. 8 USL 1, 2 NISA matches. Been to 3 NWSL. This is a man who just likes to go out and see games. He
is a ground hopper indeed.
He is a ground hopper. In fact, there's no other thing here, no issue, just I want to see grounds. So shout out to Dave. That is a great thing to do. Simply Dope. This man is George out of South Carolina, 52, Rock Hill, South Carolina. Talks about his fandom. Chelsea, Charleston, Charlotte, Hackney Wick FC, USA, Ghana, and Denmark. Works in sports tech. Biggest issue is helping the U.S. move to an open system because of the passion. I've written a few articles for websites and frequently exchange ideas with others online. George is one of those who has given us his manifesto, and at some point we'll dive back into the manifesto. Those should be bonus shows that we'll do in the near future, Rob, is diving into some of these manifestos and taking a harder look at them. But shout out to George.
And next up, we have Matthew Brothers from Covington, Kentucky, just across the river from Cincinnati.
You skipped one, Rob. You skipped one. That's okay. Go to Matthew. You already mentioned him.
All right, and his biggest issue with American soccer is trying to introduce others to the sport that I fall in love with and to proselytize for Major League Soccer.
You can say proselytize. You could say that word, but you can't say. Never mind. I don't want to get into it.
As we go through this show, even from when we started a year ago, the eyesight is going away. So so some of the pronunciations is me guessing incorrectly. But proselytize for Major League Soccer.
You did proselytize. Okay. Matthew wrote a longer narrative of his soccer journey. Hearts of Pine. He says he hopes to see Hearts of Pine this season. He's got his wife is part of his journey, so that's why he says we here. I've written a much longer narrative that I asked for access. He gave me access a little while ago. I haven't been able to read it yet. So he says it starts with Ted Lasso. So we'll check in on Matthew. This is the one we skipped. This is Grumpy Huey, Grumpy Gen X, Marine Corps veteran. I think we've got a couple of veterans, by the way. Shout out. Thank you for your service to all of our vets. New Englander in Jersey. Let's see, man, there's a lot here. USSF is failing, in my opinion, overall. They may have thoughts on pro leagues in those divisions, but failed everything below those. Wish there was over 1,000 USL 1 league clubs. An organization that amateur, semi-pro, non-league clubs around the country could gather under one organization that will be organized. So again, that thing of like, you're going to have to, if you're going to create an organization to get all those clubs under one umbrella, you're going to have to sell those clubs because they're going to have options because everybody thinks they have a better mousetrap. Like just everybody does, unfortunately. Let's see. I'd rather spend my money locally in 5 to 10K old soccer venues than a high school football stadium, getting tired of travel, 1 hour to pay the price of a ticket, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a lot of this, again, like this is access for our man Grumpy. When it comes to soccer in America. We did Matthew. Here's Wes. He gave us bullet points. Rob, you want to give us some bullet points from Wes?
All right, Wes Henderson, based in Florida now, but from Albuquerque and Houston, 15 plus years supporting, helped launch Albuquerque Soul in the PDL, vice president of the Texan Army. Wow. Served on the American Outlaws board, a member of the Independent Supporters Council. Wow. Co-founder of the University of New Mexico Howl Raisers, and worked with ESPN and the New Mexico Bowl since 2010. And why soccer matters to me. Biggest issue, soccer still isn't taken seriously by people who've never experienced it. And he's a longtime believer in lowering barriers and inviting new fans in. And he's participated in the early free beer movement, using beer to get people access, atmosphere, and into the door. And once people experience the supporters' passion and community, the stereotypes disappear. And growing the game means welcoming people in and letting soccer speak for itself.
Yeah, that's 2 mentions of the free beer movement. So again, shout out to Dan Wiersma getting some love on this show. I love that. And then finally, and this is the last one we got before the show started. So if you've given us your bio in the Discord, my apologies. We'll get to you shortly. And then if you haven't done it or you're not an ultra, you know what to do. Become a member of the channel. That gets you access to the Discord where you can put up your bio and we can talk about your issue, because that's, again, this is supposed to be responsive. We want to know what you guys care about. And not only is this, we're airing your grievances or you're sharing your issue. It is time for airing your grievances, right? It is Festivus here around Morning Kickaround. It means that we can also focus what we talk about, right? And we can be responsive to that. So this is Ryan, often called Brian, he says. Don't know why that is. Army vet, another vet. Hoosier native living in Fort Wayne, found his community in the local soccer scene during the 2014 World Cup. Love to talk about that and help amplify all the soccer shenanigans happening in Fort Wayne. He mentions Fort Wayne FC. I believe he's, again, involved in the fandom and all the things that are happening around Fort Wayne FC. Building a soccer-specific stadium set to open this spring. We're very excited about that. Would love for us, you and me, Rob, to join him for a match. He says, outside of my area, I'm a fan of Minnesota Aurora, which we haven't talked about yet. We should talk about Minnesota Aurora. Wes Burnine got mentioned on this show because of his social media post on the Colorado thing, but Wes Burdine is a founder and owner and one of the key figures of Minnesota Aurora. I know he's been a guest on our show.
Yep.
What was he talking about?
It was the calendar change and the Minnesotans' reaction to how cold they might be getting, and we talked a little bit about his bar as well.
Yeah, that's right. He's got the bar there in St. Paul. The most important issue for me is making the game financially accessible for players, parents, and fans. That's the thing. Right. That's the thing. And again, I think we can do a lot of angry throwing of bombs at the big time soccer people in this country, that being U.S. soccer when it comes to, say, the national teams or certainly MLS. And look at them. There may be some places or even around the USL where people don't love what their ownership is doing around ticket prices and accessibility. But the thing we should be doing, even as we are criticizing those people for what they're doing to keep their version of the game less accessible or make it less accessible, is to build a new system, to build a better, more accessible group of clubs that people can engage with. And it seems as though Fort Wayne is scratching that particular itch for Ryan, which is good.
Yeah, I'm excited to come watch a game with Ryan and check out that new stadium in Fort Wayne. We did get another reply on the YouTube channel itself. In the community post, we have a post from Fairman58. He's a newbie to the sport of soccer, got fed up with sports in America has become, and wanted something new following COVID to get out and be around people. Detroit City FC provides that for me, along with what they do in the community, how the fan base makes me feel welcomed. He's learning about a new game, and it's awesome to him, and it's something that myself and his autistic son can enjoy together. DCFC till I die, says Fairman58.
Shout out to Wes, who has gifted 5 memberships. That is incredible. I see they've already been claimed. Clyde, Cyclone, Aaron, BLT Gamers, Hugh are all now ultras thanks to Wes's gift. That is a wonderful Christmas gift that Wes has handed out, and we very much appreciate that. That's great. I will put the Discord link, the working Discord link, on the YouTube channel in a post for the Ultras, so you have access. Click the link, get into Discord. Now, look, I will say this also. Man, Tulsa Mario also being very, very Christmassy here. Go ahead and put that back up. Tulsa Mario, man, muchas gracias. That's incredible. 5 more memberships. So if you are in here and you grab one of those, we'll get the Discord link and all of you guys can jump in. Now, obviously, I would love you guys to also stay members after your initial period as an Ultra is over, because these are gift memberships. Hopefully we'll convert you. If you're somebody who doesn't know Discord, don't worry. It's just a place for chat. Like, it's just literally a website or an app, and you can put it on your phone. You know, it's how to compare it to something, right? It's just another way to communicate.
Yeah, it's a chat room essentially, and it's just for just us that are involved here in the channel members. So it's a a contained chat room, so you can express your feelings and comments and share news within this community.
We've got channels for all different kinds of things. Like, there are channels where people are talking about pretty much all the issues that came up today, right, on the show. Like there are channels for travel, channels for accessibility. Look, this show doesn't talk about the Premier League all that often. Rob's really upset about Liverpool's season. That's why it doesn't. No, I'm just kidding. We don't talk about the Premier League because it's not the focus of the show. But there is a channel for people to talk about the Premier League. So if you are just a soccer fan, I care about my local team, or I'm into American soccer, but I also have a team, meaning I'm a Chelsea fan, I'm a Liverpool fan, whatever. There is a place for you to commiserate with us on those topics. And a lot of you probably know, because I mention it on a regular basis, I do a radio show, a national radio show on SiriusXM FC with Eric Winalda. And that show, while we talk about American soccer on some level regularly, we are a lot focused on Europe. So I'm in there. I'm ready to talk about what's going on with Arsenal. They win about as ugly as anybody can win, but they keep doing it. Own goals are saving Arsenal right now, which is something fascinating. But yeah, man, that community has turned into something great. I think Luke had a comment just a little while ago. There it is. Love what this community is being built into. All corners of the country, all soccer backgrounds, all different journeys, but one common passion. There's no judgment here, right? Again, newbies, if you can't understand the offside rule, we got space for you, right? We'll help you with that. But if you've also been in this game for 40 years, we got space for you. Like, we're ready for that to be part of our community. So I'm very excited about that.
From newbies to manifesto writers, all welcome in the Morning Kickaround Discord
It takes
server.
all kinds. It takes all kinds, Rob. Yeah.
Yeah, big shout. What a great way to end it with the gifts. Mario, Wes, wonderful. It's been a great episode. Great to dip in and spotlight the MK Ultras, and then to have gifts be given at the end of it on top of it is a great way to round out the show. Thank you all to your wonderful comments. Thank you all for your support, and thank you for participating in this Christmas Eve special.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody, very much. If you do celebrate Christmas, have a wonderful one. Just thank you so much for your support, and we'll hopefully see you very soon.
All right. Until next time, everybody, there's a lot to take in. And then until next time, everybody, enjoy your soccer.